This is Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. I was a big fan of the original Citizen Sleeper. It's the kind of thing that feels like it was made just for me. I love absolutely far-flung science fiction settings where people are so far outside of, like, you know, what you think of as the human comfort zone, that it feels like even when they're doing normal things and just trying to live normal lives, it feels like they're just on the edge of extinction. And this is that kind of world. It's set in, like, you know, the outer edges of the galaxy and sort of this, like, corporate hellscape where people are just kind of commodities and they're trying to survive on the fringes of much bigger forces that just don't care that they exist. And so, you know, that sounds really bleak, and it is bleak, but the whole attitude of the game is to take something that starts out bleak, it's bleak at its core, and then finding the rays of hope inside. And so it's actually a really, really rewarding game to play. Citizen Sleeper 1 is. I haven't played Citizen Sleeper 2. I assume it's probably good. In fact, I played the demo of it, and it's taking the game in some interesting new directions. It's sort of changing up the structure and pacing of the game to sort of keep that sense of desperation well honed throughout. Is, I think, sort of the direction they're trying to go, and I really appreciate it. Like, the demo made me really want to play the game. So now we're going to play the game. To give you a sense before we get into it of, like, the kind of game it is, it's a dice-based RPG. When I say RPG, you're probably imagining other examples in the genre, things like Dragon Age, things like Baldur's Gate, and this isn't that. There isn't a combat system, and there isn't, you know, like, any kind of tactical element to it. Instead, what this reminds me more of is the solo RPG books that you used to be able to get a long time ago, where it's like, you know, you'd buy like a GURPS adventure, like a solo adventure. You'd sit there and you'd read through the book like a choose your own adventure novel, and you would roll dice, you would play out combat, you would play out skill checks, and then that would tell you where to turn in the book to find the next step in the adventure. This feels like that's the kind of RPG it's got its roots in, because, you know, it's sort of a lonely solo adventure through a kind of, you know, hostile world where, you know, you're sort of like charting your path through your decisions, and you're making skill checks. You're using, you know, dice to determine, you know, what you're capable of on a given day. But a lot of it does feel like it's got that sort of choose your own adventure structure to it. Citizen Sleeper 2, I played through one path, mostly just because I loved it so much. I kind of didn't want to violate my original story by playing another one, and so I've got a particular story that ended in a particular way, and I liked it. It felt very attuned to me, but I could see where the branches were going off in different directions and where I could have told a different story, and that made the story that I told with it feel more personal. So this game isn't technically ambitious. It's not trying to push the envelope when it comes to, like, rendering technology and things like that, like a lot of games do, which is great. All of their effort went into sort of the innovative storytelling, and that's what I wanted from this game. And so, you know, anyway, that's me getting really excited about Citizen Sleeper 1. We should try out Citizen Sleeper 2. So I grabbed this on Game Pass. Originally, I played the first one on PC, and so I'm not actually sure how well it translates to console. Oh, also, I'm downloading Sniper Elite, which is unrelated to this. Okay, so let's hit new game. Ooh, I could scan a code and get a newsletter, but we're not doing that right now. Or are we? What if I don't want the newsletter? What am I doing? Oh. Okay. So, we're going to learn a lesson about UX today. So, look at this screen. Which of the buttons is highlighted right now? I thought that the highlight was on new game right now because it's white, and I kept pushing the button, and it would show me this newsletter pop up. And I'm like, I need to sign up for a newsletter to start the game? What are you talking about? No. Yellow is the color of the highlight. But yellow is the color of the logo and the outline. Everything's yellow. I can't. No. Okay, so often it's one thing that's very helpful that a lot of UX designers will do is that when they're doing their first pass on the UI, they don't put any color in it at all. All of their wires are done in their wireframe versions of the UX. They're all done in black and white so that they can make sure that everything is readable without making assumptions about color. So, for instance, the highlight for a button should probably have something on it that isn't color to tell you which one it is. Because when it's just color, it's really easy to be deceived by something like this. But yeah, okay. So yellow is our operative button color. So I push A now. Here we go. Awesome. Now I get to choose a slot, and I get to choose a difficulty level. Let's go with risky, which I don't remember all the mechanics well enough to be able to just read this and understand exactly what it's implying. But I'm just thinking that risky is the zone I want to be in. So risky is yellow. Confirmed difficulty is yellow. And now we're going to figure out what class we want to be. So I think, yeah, there are 3 classes. You can be a machinist, you can be an operator, and you can be an extractor. Now, the basic idea of who your character is in this saga is you are an artificial human who's had sort of the mind of a real person implanted into it. So basically this person sort of licensed their intelligence to a corporation who copied it and put it into a bunch of bodies. And so now you are still that same person, except you're in the artificial body, which means you're owned by a corporation. And you've been struggling. The first game is all about struggling to keep yourself alive, independent of the company, which kind of built in some forced obsolescence into you, so that if you don't get constantly updated by the company, you just fall apart. And so that's the kind of person that you are. So I'm inclined to choose something I would not normally choose here, because I'm planning to have my own separate playthrough that's different from what we're doing on the channel. And so let's figure out what I would normally choose, and then let's choose something else. So this is about repairing and modifying automated systems using corporate resource extraction. Machinists are skilled engineers, but their isolated work means they struggle with tasks that require like social engagement. And I look over at my skills, and my skills say that, yeah, engineer is high, engage is very low. And endure looks like it's very low. So I'm smart, I'm good at, like interacting with inanimate objects, but not people. The operator has really bad endurance and not good engineering skills, but they are good at interface. I'm not sure what interface is, but they're good at it. It says that they are built to work with drones and remote machines. Is that what interface is? Is that working with other machines? Yeah, okay, that seems like it. Their reboot skill allows them to hack their own systems to re-roll dice, a risky but potentially powerful move. That sounds interesting. These are cerebral and precise people. What special ability do these guys have? Their focus skill allows them to focus on a single task and boost their dice to excel in it. Sleepers assigned to machinist work are usually diligent, careful, and structured people. Okay, then let's look at extractor. Extractor sleepers are built to work at the coal face of corporate resource extraction, often in hard vacuum environments. Extractors have a high level of physical endurance, and I can see that in the skills over there, but not good intuition. And so who has... Okay, so both... Oh, in extractors, what's their special skill? Their rally skill lets them motivate their team, boosting crew dice. Oh yeah, so this has got like some team-based stuff that goes on to it. It's not just you as a solo person all the time. So that's neat. Okay, yeah, so extractor is actually good with like... Their skill with people isn't particularly high, but they're good with that. They're just not very smart. These guys have very low endurance, but good at interface. And these guys have very low people skills, but they're good at engineering. I'm not sure. I want to try all of these. But usually, you know what? This character comes across as more of the meathead type character, which is usually like the last character I try when I'm like sort of playing an RPG. So why don't we say, for this playthrough, since this isn't my personal playthrough, I'll be the extractor because I know it's the last one I would choose. And then I'll have to spend some more time thinking about whether I want to be an operator or a machinist in my other game. So let's confirm class as extractor. In the moment before waking, the dark space before conscious thought, you struggle to find the pieces of yourself. Usually these pieces come with a particular cadence, each appearing sequentially, like the boot process of an old terminal. First your body, artificial, compromised, but relaying sense data all the time. all the same. I'm going to be doing some bad reading today. I hope you're enjoying it. Then it's context. The breeze of air filtration, the soft contact of your birth in 0G. Then emotion, coming into focus, coming into your body, bringing with it that first instinct, the one that has framed your past 100 cycles, fear. So I like the fact that they're like saying, this is a human mind. You're a human person, but you work differently. And they're like getting down into the nitty gritty of how being a sleeper is different from being a human with a human body. But that familiar sequence does not arrive. Instead, you're unmoored in space, your body distant, your context silent, even your emotions somehow obscured and scattered. Among all that disarray, only one familiar thing arrives: the fear. It is a scrambled, panicked fear, the drowning fear, the falling fear, the fear that makes you reach desperately for any stable point. It is a fear that tells you something is wrong. Something is very wrong with you. Wake up, sleeper, the voice is whispered in your ear. An act that makes you suddenly aware of your head, pulsing in pain, your body rigid with tension. Sleeper, a familiar name, a mind copied, emulated, a body built, implanted. One person sleeping until their dead is worked away. Their double being made to work, to be consumed, and eventually to be destroyed. A proxy, an emulation, a sleeper. That is what you are. But you escaped, you remember that now, broke free of your corporate creators, S and ARP, in search of a future. You cannot remember the details of your escape, but you know the fear has been with you ever since. I remember escaping in the previous game in one of many possible ways. They're trying to be very cagey about that, because people could have played through any way they wanted. All of a sudden, you remember you have eyes, and your eyes flicker open. Pale eyes and a pale face. Lane. The name comes with its own specific sensation of fear, when you recoil from it instinctively. Sorry to interrupt, a sharp smirk, but this ends here. You search your mind for more than a name. Is this how you reward me for my generosity? Lane is leaning over your horizontal floating body, looking down into your eyes. I took you in, protected you, gave you a purpose. You try to look away, to the corners of your vision, to find something you understand. Your body does not respond. But I suppose that wasn't enough. He reaches into the pocket of his jacket and retrieves a small vial. This wasn't enough. The vial glitters. This object you know, and have known for a long time. Stabilizer, the drug that keeps your artificial body, your emulated mind, from inevitable decay. The only balm for your planned obsolescence. The liquid roiling in the vial fills you with disgust. Lane pockets the vial, but it would be wasted on you now, after what you've done to this body of yours. He looks at you with a palpable disgust. Lane's eyes scan your body, and as they do, you become aware of the wires and tubes attached to you. Those that were meant to free you from your dependence, from the stabilizer and its control, and the control it grants Lane. They're free, you piece of shit. They don't need you anymore. Their voice comes from somewhere behind Lane's head. It's a voice you know, but when you search your mind to understand why, you only find dizzying darkness. Shut him up, Lane barks the command, and you hear the sounds of impact, of pain from elsewhere in the room. You try to move your limbs again. I thought that was Lane talking at first, and I was like, what? Now I'm caught up. That was some friend of mine in the room talking to Lane. You try to move your limbs again, and this time you feel a flicker, the twitch of a finger. You feel the extension and compression of a synthetic muscle. Free, are you? Lane smirks. You were free when I disabled your tracker, when I gave you the stabilizer you needed. He scans your body with angry eyes. Now you aren't free, you're just broken. I had such big plans for you, sleeper. I invested in you. Lane grips your arm hard, and you feel a jolt of reaction. You will the arm to move, but you've ruined all that. Lane speaks louder over the sound of the struggle behind him. I will try to preserve your body, of course. I have my own uses for it. But your emulation? You feel one of his hands searching behind your head. He finds and grips a thick cable running into the port at the base of your skull. I will burn that out. Lane jerks forward, slamming across your body, then spinning away out of sight. You feel yourself rolling, the cables plugged into you, looping and wrapping around your limbs. Then you feel hands steadying you, pulling cables. You glance around wildly and see someone diligently unplugging you. You meet his eyes. Hey! He waves his hand in your dazed face. We need to move. Lane won't be out long. He unloops a cable from around your wrist. Sleeper, help me out here. You blink slowly. Do you know this person? He leans over you and you feel his hands on the connector, flicking switches, releasing locks. Come on, come on, come on! He tugs the connector clear and pulls you up. You see the room you're in for the first time, filled with tech and terminals, wires waving everywhere, all lit by big windows looking out over an impossibly bright, screen-filled street beyond. In the corner you see the dark shape of a floating body surrounded by a glittering constellation of crimson baubles. Is that blood? Move! You're wrestled and shoved towards the door, which slides open in front of you, and then you're out in all that brightness, all that movement, gliding hard towards some unknown destination. You come to a stop in a dark alley, the one who guided you here pausing to catch his breath. He doubles over beside a massive life support unit that sends a lukewarm breeze across your skin. You stare at him, trying to recall anything about him. You notice his tattered jacket, his lightweight clothes. You remember that this station runs hot, something about the power that flows through the place. He looks up and meets your eye. What's going on, Sleeper? He wipes sweat from his forehead, and it floats away in a swarm of spheres. Talk to me. Where are we? Somewhere on the starward side. Not too far from the docks, I hope. You see a frown cross his face. That's not what you meant, is it? He comes closer, eyeing you carefully. What station are we on? He narrows his eyes, waits for the answer. You close your eyes, trying to recall. You force your way through the dark to the image of the station. No, a city, growing on the back of a vast set of hexagonal solar cells, shadowed by them. You open your eyes. Dark side. The word leaves your mouth like an exhale, an instinct. Before you heard yourself sound it out, you didn't know it was there. He sighs. And me? Who am I? You see something like fear in his eyes. Panic, perhaps. You stare hard at his face, the slight upturn of his mouth, the intensity of his stare. Nothing comes. He closes his eyes and drops his head, putting his hand to his temple. The reboot. He's speaking quietly to himself. Lane interrupted the process, and he lifts his head and stares at you. This is, a thing they do often in stories where you're trying to, ground the player or ground the audience in an unfamiliar world. They find some way to have the protagonist not know anything about the world. So it looks like that's what they're doing here. They had Lane do something harmful to you to give you some amount of amnesia so that you'd have to have things explained to you again. We need to get going. We need to leave. He turns and kicks off down the alley. Come on, rig can't be far. So this whole place is like 0G. That's interesting. As you're led through the passages and serviceways of the station, you try to recall your life here. The texture, the temperature of Darkside feels familiar, but you struggle to pin specific memories to it. Focusing hard, you recall waking up in these passages, cycle after cycle, the rhythms of the station flowing over you, along with the crowds. You recall desperation and the slow decay of your body that caused it. Then Lane, those pale eyes, offering you a glittering vial, a stabilizer, the promise of supplying more for your work, a deal he locked you into like a cage. There your memory fails you, but in the dark beyond that moment, the residue of panic, of fear remains. You were Lane's prisoner, Lane's plaything. You shudder in the cold passage. Wait. Your guide holds up a hand, and you stop your glide using the wall. Ahead, you see the tunnel open into a wide open bay with a few doors leading into cylindrical tunnels. The docks. They're watching the rig. He nods towards the docks, and you see one of the doors has a couple of figures flanking it, one covered in ornate tattoos, the other with bright silver implants along the cheekbones. Utsobu, Lane's guys. He looks at you and shakes his head in frustration. All this. It's not coming back to you, is it? Something catches your eye, and you see he's playing with a coin, nervously turning it over and over in his fingers. He sees you looking and slips it away. He places a hand on his chest. I'm Seraphin, all right? He looks pained when he speaks. Lane, he was our captor, both of us. We did this so we could escape. We needed to reboot you to break your dependence on stabilizer. He pauses. You know what that is, right? You nod meekly. But Lane interrupted me back there. The reboot didn't complete, and he sighs and shakes his head. We can still make this work. He looks back at the docks. I'll lead them away. You get the docking bridge open. If we make it to the rig, I know how to get us in. Got that? He searches your face for a sign of recognition. What's the rig? Seraphin looks annoyed. A ship. Our ship. At least it soon will be. Lane assigned it to us when we were on jobs for him. Get that door open. He pats you on the shoulder. I know you can do this. Seraphin kicks off hard and glides into the docks. Over here, shitheads! He bellows to the guards as he barrels through. They immediately push off from the wall, giving chase. Seems kind of obvious. Okay, tutorial. During scenes, you may encounter skill checks. Oh, Eternal Strands. I was also downloading that. Where you can perform certain actions using your skills. Like the dice actions you will encounter later, skill checks can have a positive, neutral, or negative outcome. The better the rating of your skill, the more likely you'll be to succeed at the check. The odds of success are displayed when you select the check. You can see more info in the guide section of the pause menu. Okay, So, I can try to hack the door, which 50% chance of neutral, 50% chance of negative, or I can break the seal. Not sure what the difference is here, but yeah, it's more likely to go positively. I think this is because of the skills that I have as this character. So I don't have a good whatever this skill is, whatever the interface. I don't have a good interface skill, but I do have a good engineer skill. So I'm going to use my engineer skill. Positive outcome, and I lost some stress. Excellent. You shift to the central access panel and wrench it open. It only takes a moment to understand the mechanism, and you reach in and snap the locking axis, the door popping open with a hiss. Go, go! Seraphim flies past you through the doorway into the docking tunnel. You turn to see the two guards approaching fast across the docks and quickly glide after Seraphim. Seraphim is already at the rig's door, inputting an entry code. The rig's door scissors open, and you both rush inside. Quickly! Seraphim grabs you by the arm and drags you up to the cockpit, the ship's layout hazy in your mind. He dumps you in a flight seat and straps himself into his own. You see him tap a series of buttons as he does, talking to himself. Come on! The rig's drive rumbles into life, and Seraphim slams a button on the console. You feel the force of the ship's acceleration as it pulls away. Here it goes. We have escaped. As the ship glides into place on the connecting bridge, its automatic systems nudged there by the port's docking protocols, you feel a sense of relief. Seraphim burned hard out of Darkside, and you dropped in and out of consciousness in your seat as the rig made its way across the belt. But now, with open space between you and Lane, you feel fresher, more awake. Seraphim breaks the silence. We're good, Sleeper. His eyes don't leave the monitor. You realize this part of your escape is routine for him. You and he must have docked this ship countless times in your work for Lane. The problem is, you don't remember any of them. We made it, he whispers, closing his eyes, letting out a sigh. We certainly did. He turns and you see a pained look on his face, as if remembering something difficult. Have you said this exact same thing to him before, in the same situation? Are you okay? He looks at you, chewing one side of his lip, searching your face. Not really, he puffs. Seraphim reaches up, flicking through a set of switches in a practiced fashion, completing the shutdown. You watch, a little frustrated with your own uselessness. Running the rig, you realize, is another thing you've forgotten. A clunk that runs through the walls of the ship is followed by a short percussive alarm tone from the pilot's console. Docking complete. Seraphim kicks off from his seat, twisting as he glides past you towards the back of the cockpit. I like how relentlessly this is in space. Like, they're really, making sure you can't miss the fact these people are not walking around. His hands find the rails on either side of the door, and he pauses, facing into the corridor beyond. He turns back to you, backlit in cold cyan. We need a plan. He glances around. Lane's not going to let us slip away quietly. He sighs. I'm going to say that we need to talk? Seraphim furrows his brow. Not now, Sleeper. We need to forget. He flinches, the words coming out wrong. We need to focus on something other than... He pauses again, unsure. Us. He sighs. We need to survive this thing first. Then maybe we talk. Fine by me. Seraphim nods, but the tension remains. We've bought ourselves some time. He glances through the cockpit window at the blinking lights of the station. You may not remember Hexport, but I do, and there are plenty of opportunities here for us, if we can keep our heads down. He turns back to the corridor. That's what we'll do. He pushes off and glides toward the main lock, and you follow, pulling yourself along, hand over hand in 0G. We already emptied the tank on this thing. He slaps a hand against the ship's insides. So we need to refuel, and that won't be cheap. But if you and I know one thing, Sleeper, it's how to work. I'm going to get myself reacquainted. See if I can turn up any old connections. People that might throw us an easy contract. You, he glances back over his shoulder, you keep out of trouble. I can handle myself. Seraphim stops at the airlock. Look, Sleeper, you aren't yourself. He sighs. Stopping the reboot halfway through, he pulls a worn crew jacket from a locker and starts pulling it on. We don't know what that did to you. He jams an arm into his sleeve. I don't want you passing out and... He stops. Don't baby me. Seraphim shoots you a glare. Fine. I'd be a little bit more confrontational than I normally would be, just because I want to see stuff that I don't usually see in games like this. He grabs another crew jacket and thrusts it at you. Just put the damn hood up, will you? You take it and slip it on. Stay silent. Seraphim stabs the button to open the lock. The inner door hisses open, and Seraphim glides through. Wait for a little bit, then leave. Anyone looking for us will be looking for 2 people traveling together. He looks at you in your worn crew jacket, a limited disguise for what's clearly a sleeper. We meet back here later. Any trouble? Same thing. Meet here. He surveys your disguise again and shakes his head. This is a shitty idea. He gives you one last look. Maybe find yourself something to eat. Suddenly you recognize Seraphim's instinct to look after you. A flash of a relationship now lost to the reboot. Catch. Seraphim throws a handful of something towards you. You manage to grab the projectiles. When you open your hand, you see a stack of cryochits. Those should get you some food. We'll need some more for fuel and supplies. He grimaces. That means odd jobs on the station for both of us. Seraphim kicks off and glides down the docking bridge. Don't go too far, all right? He shouts as he leaves. Take it slow. And with that, he's gone, leaving the connecting bridge and heading to Hexport's docking concourse. You wait for a moment in silence. Let's think about Lane. The airlock suddenly seems all too quiet. Lane had a way of lowering the temperature in a room, of bringing all attention to focus on his target of choice. You don't remember thinking of him as a protector, a savior, but you know you once did. All you know him as now is a pursuer, a tormentor, a nightmare. You shake the thoughts from your head and pull the jacket tight. Let's see what Hexport has to offer. You kick off and glide into port. Alright, so here we go. We're going to start playing the game now. Welcome to Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. The game runs in cycles, during which you can perform actions with your dice, use cryo to buy food, fuel, supplies, and items, progress clocks towards new scenes and events. You can review tutorials at any time in the guide section. So I can scroll the station with the left stick. That's a small station. And I can rotate it a bit with the right stick. Oh, that's kind of neat. The previous game was like a ring-shaped station, or maybe a crescent-shaped station. You could kind of basically scroll up and down the whole time. This game, I think, has got a little bit more variety in its settings. Okay, so I've got some dice across the top. 4 3s and a 2. Not a great roll. But let's see what our options are here. So I can go to the Hexport docks, Hexport exchange, and it looks like I can't go... I think that might be where my ship is docked over on the left side. Well, let's go to the docks. In Citizen Sleeper 2, you perform actions by assigning action dice to them. The higher the dice you assign, the more likely you will be to succeed at an action. But your dice will be modified by your skill. Your skill modifier for the action is displayed on the right, and it will reduce or increase the value of the dice assigned to the action. Like skill checks, dice actions have 3 outcomes: positive, negative, and neutral. Each action is also rated safe, risky, or dangerous based on the outcomes it has. The more dangerous an action is, the more significant both its rewards and consequences are. For more information on dice actions, check the guide section of the pause menu. Okay, so it looks like my goal is to get some odd jobs. So I can engage with people, which is a skill I have, and that's risky. But I could basically get a lead on a job, or I can just explore. But that requires intuition, and that is the one skill that my extractor character is garbage at. So we're not going to use our intuition. We're going to talk to people probably. So let's do that, and let's pick a die. Okay, so I've loaded up the die, and it tells me, what the likely outcomes are using that die. But I still need to do a separate action to agree to it. So I'm gonna hit start action. And positive outcome. You just progressed a clock. That's a clock down at the bottom. Clocks track your progress towards both positive and negative events and can be filled by performing actions and the passing of cycles. Also, tutorial messages will go away after a certain amount of time. Okay, yeah, so basically this thing has got 6 segments on it, and I need to fill them up to make something happen. So I can basically, there's no reason for me to try this because it's just going to go badly for me with my terrible skill. So I'm going to try another 3. Okay, negative outcome. I did get some progress, but I lost some energy. And I think energy might be the white pips underneath my dice. I'm going to guess that's my energy. So, okay. I'm going to try to engage again. Let's have a look at what a 2 does. So if I pick it to remember, it was 25, 50, 25. Now it's 50, 50. So this is like a much stronger chance of the negative outcome. So I want to not do that. I hit B to back out. Let's do a 3 again. Okay, neutral outcome. So I made progress. I didn't make astounding project. I didn't make astounding I can't talk today. Holy crap. I'm amazed I got through all those paragraphs. I didn't make astounding progress like I did the first time, but I also didn't lose energy. So I'm just going to blast all my dice at this. This is my job. Oh, lost more energy. Okay, we got one more shot. We got one more die. Oh, 50-50 chance, flipping a coin. Negative outcome. So we filled it, but we lost our last energy, and now we're starving. So while I'm starving, I get 1 stress per cycle, and energy. Okay, that went away, but whatever. Okay, so starving is bad. I don't want to be starving. I want to get some food, but we did fill up that clock, so that means some kind of event is going to happen because of that. Here we go. As you're gliding across the docking concourse, you hear a scuffle. The noise of raised voices cuts through the conversation, drifting out of the dockside shops. Glancing down an alley, you see a huddle of figures shouting back and forth. You spot one man in the middle of the group, surrounded, pushing the others back as they grab at the bag slung over his shoulder. You don't like the way this looks, but then again, Seraphin told you to keep your head down. Okay, intuition, not going to work. Endurance, I've got the best endurance you could possibly have for a starting character, I'm pretty sure. So this is definitely going to go at least okay, because my endurance is great. So let's choose that. Without thinking, you kick off and glide down the alley, nudging the parabola of your drift to aim directly into the back of the most aggressive assailant. The parabola of your drift. Is this thing spinning slightly? Does it have like Coriolis effect you have to deal with? Fascinating. You barrel down the alley, raising your arms for the impact. As you do, your target turns back to face you. You see the flash of an implant across their eyes before you slam into them. The assailant grabs onto you as you hit them. Look at that little red effect. I don't know what that did. That might have just been to illustrate that something neat happened in the story. The two of you spin together in 0G, kicking and pulling at each other. You manage to get both legs up between the two of you and kick him off into the metal pipes opposite. Then something hits you from behind, and the whole alley blurs as you spin forwards. Through the ringing sound of the impact, you hear curses shouted in retreat. You steady yourself, and a heavy hand falls on your shoulder. Don't do that again. The man gives you a severe look, shaking his head at your eager attack. One of those scumbags knifes you? I don't want that on me. He pushes you aside in the corridor and throws the large bags over his shoulder. I was helping! The man laughs. Well, he shakes his head. Thanks, I guess. He kicks off and drifts past you. You watch the man go, and then, after a moment, he stops and turns back. He rubs his forehead, looking down as he does. What's your deal, anyway? He sighs. Maybe you're new here, but Hexport is no place for do-gooders. Oh, I could say you needed help, or I could say I need help. You know what? Right now, starving? Maybe I do. The man raises his eyebrows. So you look for trouble? He shakes his head. You got it all wrong. Look, let's not hang around, all right? The man pats his chest. I'm Femi. He unshoulders one of the bags and pushes it towards you. Make yourself useful. Let's head. You get the strap of the bag over your shoulder and follow him through the docks, gliding past the concourse through the connecting bridges. He cuts down a side passage, looking back to check that you're following. Then he stops at a docking bridge connecting to a dull green ship with yellow markings. You look out the viewing window at its odd catamaran-like shape, seemingly built from two separate hulls welded together. Symbol crash, he says, and you assume that's the ship's name. Femi, you bringing in strays? A young woman, brightly dressed and stretching as she glides, drifts into the passage. She glances at you. No offense. Nia. Femi shakes his head. This one. He squeezes your shoulder. Help me fend off some Hexport scum while you were busy sunning yourself. Nia raises an eyebrow. I love that she's upside down. I mean, why not? It's space. I'm sure you can handle them, big brother. Her glib response hides the flash of concern that passes across her face. You can't tell if Femi noticed. Nia turns to you. Thanks, she smiles sweetly, and I'm sorry for my brother. She shoots him a glance. Just in general. Nia. Femi murders. Murders? Really? That's how I'm reading that word? Murders? Nia, Femi murmurs. Enough for now. He reaches over and takes the bag you were carrying. Nia rolls her eyes at you, but stays silent. Factory Row wouldn't take these. Femi hefts the bags. I'm going to load them back up. Maybe we'll find a use for them. He turns back to you. Thanks for the assist, Sleeper. He nods firmly. Not what I expected. He slaps the button for the bridge door and kicks off along the docking bridge on his way to the cymbal crash. Nia looks at you with raised eyebrows. I hope my brother was joking. Did you really help him? I tried. Thank you. She looks back at the ship. My brother needs more help than he admits. What do you mean? I don't know if... She smiles a tight smile. I shouldn't have said anything. She pauses, thinking. I want to ask you something. She takes a deep breath and gives you a direct look. What's she building up to? Are you looking for crew? She looks away. Sorry to be direct, but you seem like... Well, if you're on Hexport, maybe you're with a crew? She stops herself. I mean, maybe your crew needs crew? Maybe you're looking? I am. She struggles to hide her smile. Nia looks back at the ship, then at you. Look, I'll be honest. Being on a crew with my brother is nice, but he's suffocating me. She frowns at her own bluntness. I'm not a kid anymore, you know? But he still sees me like one. She shrugs. I want to show him I can handle myself. I need experience. I need to run some contracts. She gives you a determined look. What do you say? I'll think about it. I'm a good salvager, all right? You can use me. She smiles. I can spot things, find gaps, ways in. Does that mean she's got a high intuit skill? Because if she does, I can definitely use that. She folds her arms across her chest. I know what I'm doing. Femi taught me well. She glances back at the ship. Just consider it, all right? Let me prove myself. Suddenly, a shout comes from the ship, echoing down the passage. Femi. He makes both of you nervous. Nia looks in his direction. I should go. She pushes off towards the docking bridge. I'll be waiting. Nia gives you one last glance as she departs. Then she disappears into the docking bridge, leaving you alone in the passage. So, new local crew available. That's cool. I need to go get some food before I die. There's a bar. That might have something. And then here's the warehouses. And here's the exchange. Let's try the bar. Okay, so I could play a game over on the left, except I don't have any dice left. So I can spend 7 cryo to buy a Ben's fry. How much cryo do I have? 24. Okay, so I can afford this. I can afford this twice, and I probably need to. Okay, I'm feeling much better now. Not starving anymore. Don't have a lot of money anymore, so I really should try to get a job at some point. Let's check out the warehouses real quick. Okay, so I could do a freight loading job. So when I was poking around at the port, I thought I was looking for work. Turns out I wasn't. I was just looking for that character. I need to actually look for work, but right now I'm all out of dice. So what's going on at the exchange? More dice stuff. So yeah, I think that I'm probably done for the day. Is my cycle up? Because I've got enough energy. Let's hit B. Go back to the rig. Okay, so the rig is your ship and the home of the Starward. Your home in the Starward Belt. While the rig is docked at the hub, there are multiple areas you can visit. The bunks, where I can use dice to reduce stress. The galley, where I can use supplies to regain energy, and other locations will unlock as you play. While the rig is in dock at the hub, at a hub, your crew will also help to gather resources to contribute to the upkeep of your ship. You can choose which resources they should focus on in the crew task menu to the left. They have a random chance of acquiring it at the beginning of the following cycle. This clock is a cycle clock. It will progress towards an event each cycle. Its completion will trigger significant events. Okay, so basically we're on the run right now, and as this fills up, there's something that will end the current period where we're on the run, and something new will happen in the story. And what I'm trying to do is accomplish as many useful things as I can before that happens. All right, so let's poke around here. How do I navigate this? Oh, here we go. So, okay, so right now, like he said, Seraphin is out there doing odd jobs to get us some cryo, but he could also scavenge fuel, of which we have none. or source supplies, of which we have 2 out of 5. It's nice that these sort of line up really just perfectly with the... Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. This is going to be a hard game to figure out where to stick my head, because I think that, the UI goes all over the screen. So far, actually, I think I've seen the least UI up here. So I'm gonna try to be up here for a little bit and see if this is easier. But anyway, yeah, so you can see over here on the left, we've got 3 different jobs. They all apply to the 3 different, things that we've got at the bottom of the screen. Resources, that's what they're called. And so I can decide which of these I want Seraphim to do. Seraphim said he was going to go do some odd jobs. And so maybe I should just leave him doing that. But the reason he wanted to do odd jobs was so we could buy fuel. So maybe I'll leave him on fuel. And I don't actually see a way to navigate. Oh, I think that I was trying to navigate to the little, to the bunks, to the galley, but I think I can't because I think that right now my cursor is stuck on end cycle because I'm out of dice, so I couldn't do anything in these places anyway. So let's hit end cycle and see what happens. Okay, so I've slept. I wake up, and Seraphin's here. He says, "We're in trouble, sleeper." Seraphin leans into the bunks as you're getting up. Without further explanation, he disappears down the corridor to the rear of the ship. You drift out into the passage, pulling on your clothes, and glide down the length of the rig, the cool air making you shiver. Seraphin is a silhouette, silently leading the way. By the way, notice at the bottom of the screen, I think he got us some fuel. He stops at the far end, diverting through a side door, shooting you a glance as he does. You find Seraphin inside, holding one of a tangle of arm-thick tubes that are waving in the zero-G engine room. You know what these are? Tubes? Seraphin rolls his eyes, but you see a hint of a smile. Thanks, genius. These are the engine's feed lines. He waves one in the air, and before you ask, no, they aren't supposed to be waggling loose. What did you do? Seraphin laughs. Oh, I see how it is. So, okay, I like this, actually. I'm antagonizing him. That's actually helping build our relationship, because that's the kind of relationship we have going on here. That's cool. I like that about this game. Because it's very common to just be given, like, oh, say the nice thing, say the mean thing, then have just a really nice or mean reaction to it. I like that there's some trust between these characters, and I can kind of screw around, and Seraphin's still my friend. These must have broken loose when we pushed the ship hard out of our... when we pushed the ship hard on our way out of Darkside. He looks at the mess. We're lucky the reserve tank is empty. Otherwise, he shakes his head. It would have been bad. But, he pushes the pipe to the side, no feed from the reserve tank means that the rig's range is limited to this local region only. He thumps the large lump of housing out of the engine. This thing can't take us anywhere far. So we fix it? That's the short of it. Seraphin whacks the engine housing again, harder this time. Just not been our run of luck. He turns and starts gathering the tangled feed lines, his frustration evident in the violence of his movements. We'll need a new set of these, that's for sure. He starts forcing them into a crate. So how about you try to track him down? I'll take a look at things here and see if I can figure out another fix for the reserve tank. He glances up from his work. From what I've heard on Hexport, Factory Row is the place to find ship fitters. Maybe you can do some recon while I sort this place out? It's on the other end of the station. Okay, I'll take a look. Seraphin keeps working. Wait. Seraphin pauses, seemingly unsure. There's something else. He drops the feed lines and they float, waving in the air like tubular seaweed. I've heard word that Lane's on the hunt. He frowns. A message went out everywhere in the local radius of Darkside. He's looking for us. And we can't leave. Exactly, Seraphin sighs, which is why we need those feed lines. I'm going to try to work something out. Maybe I can improvise a solution. I don't know. He looks down. I'm no ship fitter. But while I do, you go hunting. See what you can turn up, okay? He smiles a weak smile. Get going. You leave the engine room, the clanking sound of Seraphin's cleanup efforts echoing through the ship. Fuel feed lines. That's the next step. You take a deep breath and head out. Okay, so you've discovered a drive. Drives help you track and choose your objectives in Citizen Sleeper 2. The arrow button at the top left. Of course there's something in the top left, so I have to keep moving around. Opens a drive menu where you can look at which drive to track. Once a drive is tracked, a yellow marker will be placed above any location that relates to that drive. Drives come in 2 types, major and minor. On completing a major drive, that rewards 2 upgrade points, and a minor rewards 1. Keep an eye on the drive menu as you progress to see what new opportunities and objectives are available, and track those that you want to pursue. Okay, so now I'm assuming... Can I navigate? Okay, I'm going to have him do odd jobs. I'm having a little bit of trouble figuring out how I'm supposed to navigate the ship. I'm using my left stick. I'm using... Oh, here we go. Okay. It's the D-pad. It wasn't working for me before, but now it's working. So I can look at the engine. Okay, so if I had new feed lines, this is where I would fit them. That's kind of cool, actually. It's not just like... I like that. That it's not just like, you know, oh, hey, I've got a quest and I need to report back to Seraphin, like you always do in RPGs. They actually built into the mechanics of the game. Here's the thing that needs to have that we need to do. And then I need to come and do it whenever I do get those feed lines. And then in the galley, I can use supplies to make a meal for myself. We've got 2 out of 5 supplies. I don't know. And then rig bunks is where I can use my dice to relax. My dice are garbage. Absolute garbage. However, I think that the stress is the pips along the top of the dice. Maybe. So I think that I don't have any stress, so I don't think I need to de-stress. What I need to do is explore this station. Okay, so Factory Row, that's where I might be able to get the pipes, but I'm kind of wondering if I missed out on an opportunity by not earning any money yesterday, by only focusing on exploring the port. Let's go to Factory Row and see. So part of the design of this game is you never feel like you have enough time or enough dice to do everything you want to do. And my dice today are just terrible. So it's like I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Like, this actually feels kind of familiar. I have some days where I wake up and I have rolled all 1s, and I have some days where I wake up and I've rolled all 5s and 6s. And so, like yesterday, I don't know, I recorded episode 21 of Lethal Sheriff yesterday, and but it was an all 1 day, and I was just, I don't know, I don't think that's my best episode, but, you know, today I'm like, I'm 3s and 4s, you know, I'm doing okay. Okay, so my options are using intuition to search the row. However, my intuition is garbage. I can haul materials using endurance. My endurance is great, but that's a dangerous job. See, okay, this is one of the choices that I think is more interesting, because my intuition skill, you can see it's got intuition minus. I'm terrible at this, but it's not as dangerous. This, I'm great at this, but it's dangerous. Before I do anything, though, let's back out, because I didn't actually explore the drive menu. So, for instance, escape hexport. So I'm now tracking escape hexport. And does that mark something for me? Yes, okay, so that little yellow light over the icon there, that's because of my drive. Okay, I'm trying to figure out, sorry. This game was designed for a mouse and keyboard, and so, like, figuring out the console adaptations that they made and stuff. Like, there's some games that are designed primarily for a console, and then they adapt to PC, and it's a little awkward. Some are designed for PC and adapted for a console, which is a little awkward, and that's the situation we're in here. Then I think that there, you know, some games try to straddle both. Standard Decay 2 tried to straddle both, and unfortunately what we ended up with was actually like an unmixed hybrid of the two, where some parts of the game feel optimized for PC and some parts feel optimized for console, and nothing feels like it's just natively correct. So, you know, there are worse things than just sort of picking a lane and sticking to it. Okay, so Factory Row. This is what Seraphin wants me to do. And okay, so if I were to attempt to put a terrible die in my worst skill, I have a 50-50 chance of it being bad. And they're like, you don't even have this skill. Like, they might not even let me do it because I don't have the skill. What if I put my best die in there? So yeah, so I think that they're still not, because my intuit is like literally garbage, like they're not going to even let me do it, but this is how well it would go. It's okay, so that's what it means. Okay, so it says intuit minus minus. That little icon above the evaluation is intuit minus minus. That means, and intuit is missing, so it means I can't try it at all. But even if I did, it would be minus minus, and so my 5 turned into a 3. So I think that the values are consistently linked to these outcomes. And so the question is just what number does it end up being once your skill is figured in? Okay, so I'm not going to search it out. Let's look over at Hall materials. So if I put my lowest die in here, it turns into a 2 because I'm proficient. It's still half and half though. No matter what, I think the ones and the 2s are both half and half or something. I don't know. Anyway, negative is bad if it's a dangerous thing, so I don't want to do that. What if I put a 3 in? That turns into a 4. There's still a chance of negative, but we're doing okay. What if I put a 5 in there? 5 becomes a 6, which is 100% positive. So, and basically what I'm going for right now is I want the supplier to trust me so I can get some fuel stuff from them, I think. So I'm going to do this. This feels like this is a good use of my most powerful die. I'm going to try it. Okay, we got 2 pips of progress on the clock. And so now I'm kind of... this is a little bit risky now because we got 25% chance of negative. By the way, I love the big, chunky odds. There's no like, this one's 17%, but this one's 18%. Which would be... No, it's all increments of 25%. Perfect. Please make all things work this way. Okay, so there's a chance of this one going badly, and the most likely thing is it will just go neutrally, which means I think a neutral outcome is probably just 1 pip on the clock. But there's a 25% chance I nail this clock today. So let's try it. Negative outcome. So I lost energy. I gained 1 pip. Do I want to take this further today? Maybe I should go and do something that's a little bit less risky. Ooh, is this some kind of shop? What's this? Swift Scrap Soul. I can... Okay, so I can do shifts using different skills here. I can sell raw scrap if I have it. My interface skill is garbage, and I don't have... I think I actually don't have it at all. Really? Am I missing 2 skills? Hold on. How do I look at my own character? Is there a way to look at my own character? There must be, right? Here it is. Welcome to the character screen. Here you can upgrade and configure your sleeper. On the left, you can upgrade your skills to improve the skill modifier applied to your dice. On the right, you can upgrade your push, which is a unique ability of your class, which I need to learn how to use. When upgrading your push, only 1 upgrade in each level can be active at once. You can configure the upgrade, which upgrade is active only while at a hub. Okay, so I have no points available. Okay, so interface... I was trying to find out what was the difference between my interface and my intuit, because they're both at negative. They're both double negative. But intuit is missing, whereas interface is present but garbage, which are 2 different situations. So, yeah, but endure is good, and engineer and engage are okay. But I need a bunch of upgrade points to make progress on those. And then I think... these white ones, these are available but not selected, is that right? It looks like my ability, my rally ability, is all about crew actions. By the way, while we're here, are you noticing this soundtrack? This soundtrack is lovely. I listen to the soundtrack of Citizen Sleeper 1 to go to sleep at night all the time. It's cozy, it's relaxing, but it's also far-flung science fiction in its sound. And it just feels like, drifting away to another world, and I absolutely love it. And so I've been listening to sort of the selection of the soundtrack that's been made available on Spotify for Citizen Sleeper 2 lately. And so, I keep running into familiar tracks as we're playing that I've been sort of, listening to in bed. So, anyway, I also just think it's funny to listen to something called Sleeper to go to sleep. Okay, so I've got a bunch of 1s, so I really want to do something non-risky, if I can, with these dice. But yeah, I mean, this is not dangerous. I can try to impress some data brokers. I'm not sure what good that does me. But, I mean, how negative can the negative be, right? Pretty negative. You know what? I think I'm going to come back here. Because, I mean, if I'm going to put a 1 on something, I'd rather put a 1 on something that I've got at least some skill in, right? That's important to my goals. So, let's do this. Okay, negative outcome, lost some energy. Luckily, I guess that's... The level of danger we're talking about seems pretty small. But this worked, so let's see what happens. Factory Row howls as you glide through its cramped passages. Whatever its many bays and rooms once were, they now serve as containers for industry of every kind. Whirring manufactories precisely engineer engineering components. No, try that sentence again. Whirring manufactories precisely engineer components with rapidly shifting arms, while scrappers hammer incessantly at bent ship plates. Everywhere you look, there's energy and activity, and for good reason. Hexport itself is built on the derelict fragments of a solar reflector, and even the small amount of energy generated by the remaining mirrors is enough to power a city of machines. See, okay, that's what I love about this world, is that there was a fancy, expensive version of this world that happened, and then started sucking, and now everything is built on sort of the ruins. Like, everyone's still in space. It's still space-age miracles, but it's like the garbage version that happens after the bloom is off the rose and they realize we overinvested, we overextended ourselves, we can't actually maintain this, so everything is just declining into crap. And so this used to be a fancy solar reflector. Now it's just like a thing we're sort of like clinging to like moss, and it's great. I love it. It is familiar to you, of course, in a strange, far-off way because of Darkside. That place and your memories of it are a muddy haze, but it's hard to forget the glint of its hexagonal reflectors, 10 or 20 times more in number than Hexport's, and that wild, flickering city growing on their back like a tumor. In comparison, Hexport feels provincial, but deep in Factory Row, you could almost be back in Darkside. And then you see them, tubes just like those Seraphin had waved in your face, the feed lines. You push over to the display window of the unit, marked Karsten's Supply in block capitals cut from the hull plate. There, amongst an angled shelf of oversized ship components, sit the feed lines, like some large biomechanical tangle of snakes. You slip inside, where the sound of the Factory Row is a little screened, and spot a large figure working at a bench, hunched over, concentrating. It seems he doesn't notice you enter. Hello? A sharp eye glints as the figure looks over his shoulder. Can I help you? His accent is heavy, but unknown to you. Those feed lines, how much? There's a sharp clink as Karsten places his tools and component against a magnetic plate on the wall. Oh, I love that. They're just making this zero-G thing happen. It's like he doesn't just set down his tools, he clunks his tools onto a magnet. Of course he does. He turns with surprising grace and begins to clean his hands on a cloth. Those sharp eyes scan you, but Karsten's thick-set features do not betray the results of his assessment. Custom built those for a client that never collected. He looked at his hands while he speaks, checking for stray oil stains. You have one of the old MEVs, then? He sounds out the letters in a way you don't recognize as he speaks. I don't know what accent to do for this, so I'm just going to talk like a guy. You try to recall anything you know about your ship, but the memories elude you. Perhaps Seraphin should have come along. I think so. Karsten squints a little. Right. Look, Karsten drifts over to where you are standing, his imposing height evident. For fellow enthusiasts like you, he continues in a distinctive monotone, let's say a few hundred cryo on clean chits. And he shoots a glance at the feed lines. 400, let's say, to be precise. I don't have 400. Karsten looks you up and down and sniffs. It's expensive, I know. It's a shame, but just what they're worth. He screws up his mouth a little into something that might be a smile. However, I'm more of the bartering type myself anyway. Barter sounds good. Karsten nods sagely. There's a little favor I need a crew for, and well, you look like you might be a good fit. He tucks the cloth away in a pocket and clasps his hands. I know of an old Solheim wreck out there. Very old. Pre-collapse. Collapse. What was the collapse? I don't know. I want to find out. It's tucked away in a dead zone, so nobody has ever really cut it. He shrugs. Not only that, but Solheim derelicts have a habit of triggering nasty security protocols when approached by an unfamiliar ship, so it's been left well alone. But a salvager like you with an old Solheim rig, I bet it wouldn't even flinch if it saw you coming. He smiles. I have a special interest, a need for that old tech. All those old Solheim ships had a data core, and while I don't care about the accounting reports or the material ledgers, or whatever they kept on the damn thing, I do care about the hardware. So if I was to find you back here with that data core in your cargo hold, clean cut and complete, well, then I could see my way to doing a straight barter for those feed lines. Karsten pauses, sniffs at the air again. You just need the coordinates. Let's do it. All right then. He holds out a heavy hand for you to shake, and as you automatically reach out, he grabs your forearm instead. Karsten pulls you closer, squeezing your arm. Let's keep this one between us, all right? He half smiles, his face huge and close. It's our deal. Before you can respond, he thumbs a little drive into your palm. Those coordinates. And he lets go of your arm with what you swear is a wink. You take a moment to gather yourself, and by the time you do, a whirring fills the air, Karsten having returned to his workbench. As you turn and glide out of Karsten's supply with a growing mix of anxiety and excitement in the pit of your stomach and the cacophony of Factory Row in your ears. A contract. Seraphim might even be impressed. You look at the drive in your palm and smile. This could be a route out. You think of leaving this place behind, in possession of an improved ship, too. Suddenly a small but firm hand falls on your back, and an equally small voice coming with it. Hey, wait up! You turn in the passage to see a young woman, her hair waving from the rapid glide as she clearly just came out to catch you. She steadies herself using your shoulder. Sorry. She smiles a quick, flat smile. Wanted to catch you. I'm Junie. Her dark eyes flick around nervously. You notice a portable terminal she carries, something data scrapers call a deck, and her backpack full of components and trailing wires. What's up? Karsten, she starts, catching her breath. He sent me to grab you. She smiles that flat smile again. Wants me to come with you on that job. Her eyes shoot down to the drive in the palm of your hand. She smiles again. Why didn't he tell me that? She glances back towards Karsten. I guess he forgot? He does that sometimes. She looks sheepishly at you. He just grabbed me after you two were done talking, so... Karsten's always sending me on things like this. Guess he wants me to help you out. Keep an eye on things. She pauses. I can be pretty helpful. So, she looks around the passage. Should I meet you at the ship? You can tell me when you're ready to go? Sure, why not? Okay, great. Her eyes light up. She notices she still has her hand on your shoulder and takes it off. Junie pushes off and waves. Looking forward to working with you, she calls back as an afterthought. What about the ship? Oh, I'll find it, she calls back and then disappears down the passage. I don't want to be easy to find, actually. You watch her go, glad of the contract, but nervous, too. Will Karsten keep up his side of the bargain if you deliver? I don't know about this, Sleeper. Seraphim looks nervously out the rig's windows as you finish explaining Karsten's deal, as well as Junie's offer to help. If this job was easy, Karsten would have done it himself already. That means there's a catch. He frowns at the stars. There's definitely something going on with this Junie girl. He shakes his head. I think it's a lucky break. I'm going to be credulous throughout this. Seraphim gives you a look. No such thing. He sighs. This is the belt. It means someone's getting dicked over in all this. We just have to make sure it isn't us. What if, Seraphim narrows his eyes, we could get the cryo together to just buy the feed lines? Why? Karsten wants to barter. You're right, Seraphim sighs. I just can't shake the feeling we're wandering in blind. Plus, Seraphim gives you a sly look, I did manage to turn something up in my station wandering. I found a contract board at the exchange, further in station. He gestures towards Hexport. Ooh, the exchange. That's the place I haven't done very much yet. Anyway, we take on a job that might get us some way towards buying those feed lines. So I think the game is clearly setting up that you've got a couple of options now. You can go on a mission to get the feed lines, or you can just engage in sort of the normal day-to-day gameplay to try to earn money to get them. Or maybe there's a different job. Maybe there's a different mission you could do that you would get at the exchange to get the feed lines. Either way, the story is starting to branch, and I can kind of decide what I'm interested in doing. Plus, even if we do want to take Karsten's job, a bit of money to get ourselves prepared wouldn't be a bad idea. Fill up on fuel, supplies, be ready for whatever comes. Do we have time? Probably not, but without cryo for fuel and supplies, we aren't going anywhere. Seraphim sighs. Just take a look at the contract board, see what you think. While you're at it, you might want to see if you can scare up a freelance crew, too. Seraphim shrugs. Many hands make light work and all that. Or we stop messing around. We take Karsten's job right now and get it done before he can think twice. Seraphim yawns. Seems like a whole set of bad options to me. Either way, I've still got work to do on the drive. Seraphin nods a farewell, heading back to the engine room. Let me know what you decide. For a moment, you pause, letting the haze of the plans and ideas settle in your mind. Yeah, let's put the amnesiac in charge. Suddenly, you curl up, pain shooting along your spine. You grit your teeth, your muscles lock tight. Your vision narrows as you squeeze your eyes shut. You feel a shift, as if some connection is broken. It's almost impossible to describe, like you're floating away from your body, dispersing, dissolving. There's nothing familiar in the pain, nothing to hold on to. You grit your teeth. Then another shift comes, and you're back in your body, trembling against the metal wall of the passage. The pain slowly fades, becoming a pulsing throb, then a residual flicker. You flex in 0G, stretching out the tension. There's a strange sensation of distance that persists beyond the pain, a disconnection between your body and yourself, a flickering numbness that refuses to recede. You wonder if the reboot has done something to your body, or if this is some new sensation you'll have to live with indefinitely. It strikes you that you know so little about the body that houses you. It could be moments away from collapse, or it might persevere for countless cycles like this. You try to shake off the feeling, pushing your hands against each other until they feel like they're yours again. Time is the only thing you need, and right now it feels like it's running out fast. You head for the airlock. You have work to do. You have unlocked a contract. Open the map screen to view it. The map screen? Where is... Oh, it's Y. Contracts are high-risk, high-reward jobs that you and your crew can take on. Contracts require preparation and care to succeed. You'll need to gather enough fuel to travel to the contract, gather as many supplies as you can afford to keep you and your crew going, look for opportunities to recruit crew, temporarily or permanently, to help you on a contract, consider which crew to take carefully. They have different skills and stress resistances, and who you choose can affect the story. Once you're ready, you can select the contract from your map, and then your crew to proceed. Okay, so... when I'm ready, I can do this. So Solheim HS-22. It'll take 3 fuel, which is what I've got. And supplies, it's just telling me how many supplies I have. I don't think it cares how many supplies I bring. And then it's just, yeah, extracting the data core is my job. The payment is going to be feed lines. Cool. Not going to do it right now. For one thing, I think that might be an entire episode, honestly, me going on that contract. So what I want to do is, instead, because we just crossed over an hour, so let's get this day wrapped up, and then our next episode is going to be us getting ready to actually go on that mission. So it looks like... Okay, so Carson Supply has got that marker on it to tell me that it is a way that we are going to be progressing this drive. Do I have any other drives showing up? Ooh, complete board contract. Let's toggle tracking on that. That was not what I meant to press. Again, I'm like pushing random wrong buttons here periodically because this the game doesn't naturally lend itself towards a controller. All right, so this is the contract board right here. And let's see. So okay, so we could use 10 of our 17 cryo to buy a signal contract, and this will give me, they'll give me basically two opportunities. There will be an opportunity to go on maybe a simpler, smaller job first, and then maybe, and that'll be like alongside the Carson Supply job. I'm kind of inclined to do this. I've got to disable the signal source. It'll give me 200 cryo, which will be enough to probably, you know, not only like get more fuel and supplies, but also like that's a significant step on the way towards maybe buying the stuff from Karsten and not going on his mission. So this gives me options. So I'm kind of inclined to do this. Okay, so I bought a contract. There's a new contract on the map now. Okay, so now I've got 2 options to decide between in our next episode. But I did just spend some money. I've got 7 cryo left, and I'm hungry. So we've got 2 supplies. So I could take my supplies on the ship and feed myself on those, but we also need those supplies, and I don't know how expensive they are, and I know that at the Benz, I can get a Benz fry for the 7 cryo that I've got left. So I think I'm going to do that to feed myself. So I'm pretty sure my energy has something to do with the quality of the dice that I get. Now, okay, so there's this gambling game I can do, but it requires intuition, which I don't have. I've got these 2 dice left. And I just want to figure out, like, what can I do with these 2 dice? Ooh, an endurance job, freight loading. Oh, this is good. Okay, yeah, most of the other characters I think have low endurance and would suck at this, but my character does not suck at this. I mean, he sucks a little because he's got, only ones on his dice, but whatever. Let's do some of this. Negative outcome, just lost energy, nothing else good happened. Okay, let's try this again. I mean, I've got the one. Die, why not? Okay, neutral outcome, 8 cryo. Okay, so I made back the cryo. And actually, I can just buy another Ben's fries. I'm just gonna blow all of my money on French fries. That's what we're doing. I've decided that it's French fries. Okay, I've just spent all of our money on food, so I guess I gotta let Seraphin do some odd jobs. But one thing I am curious about is the fact that Nia offered to go on a job with me. Does that mean that she's already available as crew? I don't need to take any other steps. I can just invite her on the next mission. Probably so. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think this episode is done. So let's do one more thing, which is let's end the cycle. We're out of dice. We're out of everything. We want Seraphin to get us some cryo. I think that makes sense. Unless, well, okay. Do we want to get us? I'm going to check one more thing. The map. So this job takes 2 fuel, which we can afford to do. This one takes 3 fuel. Either way, I probably want more supplies than I have. So let's not worry about cryo this time. I know that I can work at the factory if we need cryo. So let's actually have him scavenge for some supplies and see how well that goes. End cycle. Didn't go well. We only have 2 out of 5 supplies. So apparently that didn't immediately cause anything to happen. But check out our dice for tomorrow. Way, way better. I had 3 ones last time. Now I've got 3 that are in on the upper half of the die. So that's cool. So yeah, we've got an interesting day ahead. We're going to need to figure out what contracts to take. I might want to... Is there a place for me to buy supplies? Because since Seraphin didn't show up with any supplies this time, we've only got the 2, and I'm worried about that not being enough, what we're trying to do. But I'm not sure. I mean, the exchange sounds like maybe that's a place to get supplies. The warehouses were just a place to do work. The bar wouldn't have anything. I mean, was this... I can sell scrap here, but I can't buy supplies. And then what about Karsten? Can I actually buy supplies from him? I could buy the feed lines, but that's it. This is only about the mission. Okay. So yeah, I don't really have a way to get supplies outside of asking other people to scavenge for them. So, dang. I might have to go on this contract with limited supplies. But we'll see. We'll figure that out next time. For right now, this has been an episode. So this has been a lot of reading, not a lot of action. Of course, it's not like this game has action gameplay or something, but there are more hair-raising situations that I can get into that I remember from the demo. I don't remember them in detail, so we'll still be rediscovering them as we move forward. But yeah, so the contracts are where I think it gets really hair-raising, and so I want to do another episode where we go on a contract and see how that plays out. But I'm liking the game so far. You know what I'm probably going to do? I'm probably going to go reinstall the original Citizen Sleeper, play through that on my PC while I'm playing this on the Xbox, and just remind myself what the first story was, so that I can then sort of go on and have my real playthrough of this game. But yeah, this is... obviously most of the games that I play on here have some amount of action to them, or there's I play a lot of zombie survival games, that sort of thing. But I hope you can sort of see why, the same person who loves these zombie survival games really gets into this game too. I mean, the moment-to-moment gameplay is obviously very, very different, but still that same sense of I don't have enough to feel comfortable. I'm living on the edge of failure and starvation at all times. But each little thing that goes well feels really, really good because of the fact that I'm riding that edge. And this entire world feels that way. And so, well, this game is definitely much more of a story and writing driven experience, with kind of what feels almost like management gameplay. It still appeals to me on the same levels that games like State of Decay 2 appeal to me, because it's sort of exploring that boundary, the edge between survival and extinction, but in a very different world. A world that feels like it was built to be a paradise, but then people sort of that paradise, that dream died out, and now people are trying to figure out what dreams they can still have, kind of at the edge of survival. So I love this kind of thing. If listening to me ineptly read the text isn't working for you, though, I would recommend going and getting the game yourself, reading it however you want to, and exploring it on your own. But for right now, you can subscribe to my channel, and once I've made that second episode where we go on a contract, you'll be able to find that there. So you can keep exploring this with me if you want to, but people should also buy this game or get it on Game Pass.